Hi, this is Heather from the Phoenix Zoo, and I'm with Jake. We are both carnivore keepers here at the zoo, and today we're going to do some training with Jay, our male Sumatran tiger. And he's right up here at the training window. And what we do is we ask him to perform certain behaviors, and if he gives us that behavior when we ask for it, he gets a food reward. And some of the behaviors that we would do normally would be up, down. Jake's doing up right now. Up is a great behavior because what it does is it shows us the bottom of his paw pads. So if he has a cut or a scrape or some type of wound that might cause an infection in the skin of his paw pad, that we can catch that and we can follow up medically. Now what Jake just did there was called a target, and target is great for moving an animal from one location to another. For instance, if they don't want to shift from one stall to another, we can ask them to touch their nose to the target, and if they do, we can present the target in another area and they'll move to that target and thereby shift to where we need them to go. And also it's great for when you have to crate a tiger. Sometimes you actually have to get these big cats in a crate so that you can transport them to another location, whether it be the hospital at the zoo for a checkup or maybe even off-site, because they need a medical procedure off grounds, and sometimes we crate them to ship them to another zoo because there's a breeding recommendation in place. So target is great for that. It also can be used in place of another command, such as up. If you just present the target in the up position and they touch their nose to it, then you've basically achieved the same thing as if you asked for that command. Now what Jake's feeding is called chunk meat. It's basically raw red meat, and it's from horse, because horse is going to be the closest meat close to what they would eat in the wild. They will not eat beef. They actually don't like the taste of it. It's a little bit too fatty, I think. But that is definitely a favorite. And we're careful also, if you notice, we don't want to hand feed. So we have little tongs that we can deliver the meat safely to the cat without putting our safety at risk.
We got a question asking how old do tigers normally live in human care?
In human care, the average is usually 18 to 20 years. However, they have lived up to 25 years.
This is the male Jay.
This is the male Jay, yes. And he was born at the Louisville Zoo in Kentucky, but we got him when he was about 18 months old. And he actually was a celebrity in Kentucky because he was a member of the first successful Sumatran tiger litter born at the Louisville Zoo.
And for those who are just joining, can you talk a little bit again about the purpose of the training and how it benefits Jay?
We do animal training here at the zoo because it helps us if we ask them to lie down. For instance, Jake's asking him to lie down right now. It gives us a very, very good view of the eyes, the nose, the ears, the teeth, the mouth. We can make sure that everything looks normal, that there are no signs of infection, there's no unusual discharge coming from the eyes, ears, mouth, and it helps us manage their health so we can catch any illness early and treat it.
How do you tell the tigers apart?
Jay's a little bit bigger than our girls. Our girls are around 200 pounds. He's about 245. And also the males, if you look at him closely, the males have what we call a ruff on the back of the neck. It's a very, very fuzzy area with very long hair. And the males are the only ones that have a very, very pronounced ruff. on the back of the neck.
We had a question if they recognize the keepers that are caring for them.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Partly probably because they just want the food that we bring them. But we develop relationships with them. They see us every day, so we interact with them, and they get to know us. They get to know our personalities, and we get to know their personalities.
Do they like scent enrichment?
We do use scent enrichment. That sometimes they like things like even catnip, like a house cat would get. We also use extracts that use in baking, things like almond extract, vanilla, peppermint. Peppermint's a really big favorite. They seem to like the smell of mint, probably because catnip, it has that smell. We also will even sometimes use colognes and things. Some cats really go crazy over perfumes that are sprayed on trees.
What are each of the tigers' personalities like? So maybe talk about the three that we have here at the zoo.
Jay he's been here the longest. He came to us at the end of 2005, and I would say he's probably the least patient of all of the tigers. And sometimes it comes off as aggression. It appears to be aggression, but actually he can mellow out once you sit down in front of him. And if you pay attention to him, he actually gets upset if you leave. So he really craves human attention, but he kind of tries to hide it with all this bravado. And then Dari and Indah are our newest girls, and Indah's actually next door in the other enclosure right now. And Indah just came to us at the end of February, and she's a full sister to our other girl, Dari, and they're about 5 years old. And Indah, I would say, is a very sweet tiger in terms of she's very easy to work with, and she likes people. Dari also likes people, but she's more independent, so she's more apt to go off and explore on her own rather than interact with you. She will interact with a keeper, no problem, but she does like to go off on her own and just have a lot of me time. So he's feeding Indah right now, and you'll see in our exhibit area that there's some blue tape along the fence line, and that's because for safety reasons we do put what we call hot wire on our fencing. It just is a little bit of an electrical charge. It will not hurt the tiger, but it will prevent them from trying to climb the fence. Just a little tiny electrical charge that doesn't harm them whatsoever. It just sort of spooks them to stay away from that barrier. And since she's new to our zoo, we put the blue tape up just to warn her that that wire has a charge. And she's already learned. She learned when she first went on exhibit the first day. She touched the wire once and really didn't touch it again. So they're very smart animals. It doesn't take them long to learn.
We have Ella's watching, and Ella had a question. Do the tigers maybe show a preference for the keepers in their care?
Oh yes, definitely. Jay, for instance, he doesn't seem to like men a whole lot. We're not sure why, but whenever our maintenance men come into our area to repair things that we need fixed, he does get aggressive with them. And they're going to hate me for saying this, but they're probably as afraid of him as Jay is afraid of them. So, yeah, and then the girls, a lot of times, they tend to go for female keepers. And I think that's just more of an issue that a lot of times in our field there are a lot more women that are keepers, so they get used to that. But then we have other animals that like both, and you never know. It depends on their past experiences with people, and they may like a person just because they had met someone in the past that was similar to that person and they really liked them.
How do we keep the tigers cool in the summer?
In their habitats here, they actually have cooling rocks. So it's basically cement pads that we can send chilled water through, and it keeps the surface cool. We also have this large pool over here next door in Jay's area. And what we'll do, you're probably wondering, is Jay the only one who ever gets the pool? No, because we rotate our tigers between the habitats. So tomorrow Jay will be in the area next door. He won't be in this one. And then one of the girls will have the pool.
Then how about tiger conservation? We've had a couple people ask how many tigers there are left in the wild and what the zoo does to kind of help.
Yeah, well, there are about 300 to 400 Sumatran tigers in the wild. There's about 200 in zoos. And we participate in what is called the Species Survival Plan, which is a committee basically that looks at the genetics of all of these tigers that are in zoos in the United States. And what we do is we make sure that we're breeding the right tigers that have the genes that, if you combine them, will actually make the most diversity in the population. So what we're trying to do is not breed tigers that have very common genes in the population. We want to breed tigers that have more of the rare genetics, and that will help perpetuate that diversity.
Is their diet primarily horse, or do they eat other things as well?
It's primarily horse. They also get chicken once a week. They also get rabbit probably about twice a month. And once a week they also get what we call a big knuckle bone. It's just a big bone like you'd give your dog that's got some meat on it. And that helps keep their gums and their teeth healthy.
And Tegan, age 5, wants to know if tigers can climb.
Definitely, tigers can definitely climb. That's one of the reasons we have that hot wire on the fence, because it keeps them from climbing that fence. But they're known to climb trees, and Jay especially, he's been in another area of the zoo, our old tiger habitat, and in that habitat there are some huge mesquite trees that basically tower over that habitat, and he was known to actually climb into those trees almost all the way up to the crown, and he loved it. So yes, they definitely can climb.
How do we shift them between the different habitats?
Normally when we shift an animal, we always give them a food reward. So if we open our shift door because we want them to come into the night house, which is the building that we feed them in, and also it provides shelter when there's inclement weather. Once they come in, they always get a food reward. So it's a form of training called conditioning, which just means that they know that they'll get food if they come in. So they learn that pretty quickly, and we usually don't have a problem getting them to shift or to go into another habitat. And you can see now too, he's just feeding her. He's actually not training, but she's staying there because she's getting that food reward.
How many years do they typically live?
They can live up to 25 years. Typically here at the zoo we see them live to about 20 or 21 years of age. But the average is between 18 and 20 years generally. And this girl, she's only 5 years old.
Afton with the question here, age 8. Thank you for asking, Afton. How many teeth do tigers typically have?
32 teeth. And most of the teeth in the front are going to be for grasping prey and holding on to it. So like your large canine teeth are for grabbing prey, and the little incisors in the front on the bottom and top. And then near the back they have what we call carnassial teeth. They're about midway back on the jaw, upper and lower. And those are for shearing and tearing meat. So they kind of have edges that look like little scissors. And then they do also have a couple of molars in the back, like we do, but it's not anything like the amount of molars that a human being has.
Are tigers mainly solitary animals?
They are mainly solitary. In the wild, they come together to breed, and that's about it. And then they go their separate ways. They all have their own territories. So like for instance, even though Dari and Indah were litter mates, sisters, right now they're kept separate because they would no longer get along if we put them together. And that's what would happen in the wild. They get to be about 18 months to 2 years of age, and then they separate and go their own way.
Elizabeth, age 6, wants to know how often this type of training happens. How often do we work with them to train on the wall?
We do this every day, if we can. Yeah, we do this every day because the more we do it, the better that they will perfect their behaviors. So now she's just looking for more food. And she's rubbing on the mesh. That's a friendly behavior.
Sammy says hi and is wondering if tigers like broccoli or any vegetables.
We have never offered broccoli. No. They usually don't like any kind of a vegetable or a fruit. They're meat eaters. They're carnivores.
Do their coats help them camouflage or have like a specific purpose for them?
Yes, the stripes actually will blend into the trees of a forest, like the shading patterns. When you see the sunlight filtering through the treetops, the black stripes mimic that, helps them blend in.
Does anybody have any other questions? Why is she making that noise?
She's soliciting attention from Jake to see if he will give her some more food, basically. And some cats are more talkative than others, just like your house cats at home. They will, some of them will be more talkative, some of them will be more loner types that don't like to vocalize a whole lot. Just depends on the different personalities.
Excellent. Well, certainly appreciate everyone tuning in. Thank you both for the knowledge, and stay tuned for more.